G'day champions, we're back with the final episode of this amplifier, I promise. We'll do some sound samples, but first I'll show you what was involved, at least the expedient version anyway. This took about twice the amount of hours that I estimated. Fortunately, the time span was a little bit flexible with the customer. He didn't want it yesterday, so there was kind of no way around spending that amount of time with the lack of consistent documentation from Mesa and how the fundamental structure of the amp had been so messed up by the previous person. So go back, check the other episodes. I'll list them in the description below. You can get the previous story for anyone who's just come here on this episode. So starting up the right hand end, we've removed that triode that was there and we put a rubber plug in its place. Recap this board, replace the carbon comp balance resistors there with some metal films. We cleaned up this area of the chassis and put a dedicated ground wire just directly to the nearest pre-drilled hole. So we were able to not have to drill any new holes in the chassis, which was nice. The less modification of the chassis, the better. I've left the mains primary wiring intact. This switch is actually in pretty good condition. A lot of the time these phenolic backing plates are all buckled and buggered, but this one's actually still dead flat, so we'll leave that in. So full recap, all the electrolytic capacitors replaced, all the tantalum capacitors replaced with electrolytics as well, because they love to go short circuit as mentioned in the previous one. All the switching circuitry was fine, all that stayed pretty much as is. The most time consuming part was just determining where everything went, because yeah, we might have a schematic, but the schematics aren't accurate. There's no board layout. The few board layout drawings I could find online that someone had, you know, reverse engineered the thing and created were a bit different. There was missing stuff. He must have had a different version. This is sort of like the all options included version. It's got reverb as well as the half power and you name it. Some of the other versions were clearly different versions of the schematic, but like I say, there's no revision control, so you've got no idea what version you're dealing with. So with the numbers on the PCB that are supposed to designate what plugs into what, you got a few numbers. There's nothing on the schematics that shows that, but someone has reverse engineered on a forum post, and I did check that off this, and it's pretty close. It got me a lot closer. It did save me a bit of time, but not much. Because you got number 4 there, yeah, that's great. You've also got a number 4 there, and you got a number 4 there. So like they can't even come up with like unique designators for wire connectors. It's just number 4. Yeah, clearly that's the tone stack. Clearly that's the direct out. And then clearly that is connected to the EQ board. So there's nothing you can really follow without going back and forth, looking at the schematic and checking out the layouts that this bloke's created and going back and forth and back and forth. And that's just for one connection, you know, just to confirm everything was right, because we had absolutely no reference with how this thing came in such a hacked up state. So anyway, new axial filter caps there with tube amp doctor replacements, new metal film droppers there, 3 watters. We've just stuck with the stock values because, as discussed earlier, this customer just wants it to be a Mark III as close as possible. I've sweetened the reverb a bit because it was almost non-existent with the stock circuit, and that's a common complaint in these things. But besides that, everything else is as close as we could get to the original design. I upgraded the 2 coupling caps for the output of the phase inverter down there with some Panasonics that are rated at 630 volt instead of 400 volt. They're also like a tenth of the size, so a lot easier to locate in there without squeezing them in. The other ones literally only just fit and we're pushing against that other cap, and that could rub through the insulation over time. I've upgraded the screen grid resistors to 1K because modern tubes absolutely suck, so that'll give them half a chance of living more than, you know, 6 months. We've redone all the wiring on the front panel, ripped it all out. Everywhere where I've replaced a melted wire, I've replaced it with a Teflon jacketed wire, so PTFE. You can wrap that shit around a soldering iron and it does not melt. It's really high quality stranded stuff. I think it's like 1000 volt rated, despite its how thin it is, and it's got really nice many strands of silver plated copper as the conductor. And I might add that some of the connections you had to make are under other components and they have no designation at all. So you got no choice but to, you know, analyze the schematic, study the schematic and figure out what's supposed to go where. Do that for every single wire, at both ends of each wire, before you can confidently connect it and know exactly what you've just connected is where it's supposed to be. And then once you've done all that, you second guess it all and you triple check it before you apply power, because I don't trust my own memory as far as I can throw it. We've got the new pull pots there. They're Burns models, so higher quality than the cheapy alphas that were in there. They've also got a 3/8 bushing, so it's not a tiny little 7mm shaft in that hole with squashed dome washers as a result. They have a really nice feel, these ones. We did have to compromise a little bit on the resistance and taper, but it does still feel pretty intuitive to adjust, and it sounds pretty balanced with everything halfway, which is kind of what I try to aim for in a tone stack. But call me crazy, I like everything at 12 o'clock to be a good sort of baseline tone for any amplifier, and then tweak from there. So I've got a pretty high quality 240 volt fan here that I'm going to replace that computer fan with. I've just got to figure out how to get a plug end on there that suits the sort of Japanese US style two-prong thing that's already on the chassis, and mount that with the brackets like the old one was. But being a 240 volt running on 120, it should run slower and therefore quieter. At least that's the plan. So the few things left to do, champs, is put it back in the cabinet obviously, and I think the customer from memory wanted me to fit this badge, but it doesn't work. There's a recess there to suit a shorter, fatter, or shorter and taller badge, and if we try to install this centered on it, you can see through the light through the grill cloth there. It's going to miss the piece of ply backing it. So I'll talk to him about that if he wants to try and source the correct size one, or try and make this one work somehow. Alright champions, we've got the fan installed there. I've tested it, I've re-terminated it so it comes out on one of those pluggy plugs that goes straight into the chassis, just like the stock one, into the primary, the power transformer, used like an auto transformer as previously mentioned. But this, I couldn't let this go. I've installed the fan. Now they've got the cutout for the reverb tank with a recess there. On some models they've got a recess for each RCA jack. On this one they've just got a wider one that goes the whole length, but they've put a cutout for the fan too, but it's off to the side. He shoots, he doesn't score. That's just so typical of Mesa Boogie. Fuck it, use it anyway. I know it's wrong, whatever, who cares? Put it out, get rid of it. It's gonna work okay. I mean, we don't need a fan really. It's running at fuck all ripums. But it's just enough to keep some airflow happening if it is pushed against the wall and a little bit restrictive. There is enough room around that reverb tank to be able to draw a bit of air through, but you know, it's probably not necessary. But of course, Mesa being Mesa, the way they've done it defeats the purpose of using the rubber grommets, because the hole's not big enough to be able to put it through, and even if you could, it's got double thickness because of that shielding piece there, so it wouldn't fit with those grommets. So that screw head, unless you do it up tight enough that the rubber doesn't matter that it's there, it could rattle against that screw head. So Mesa Boogie not understanding the very, very, very basics of how to install a reverb tank. I'll tell you what, Mesa Boogie, I'll wipe your ass yet again. Just put some foam tape on there, you know, the double-sided stick stuff, but just left the protective tape on there so it doesn't stick. That'll just give us a chance of stopping this piece of metal flapping around against it during operation. So here's all the stuff that came out of it. It doesn't look like that much now we look at it, just remembering the hours and hours that went into it, but you know, most of it was re-establishing the signal chain and all the connections that have been cut and rerouted and all sorts of stuff. So, and the melted wiring, all that stuff. So, yeah, I can give that in a big bag of shame back to the customer, and he can have a gawk at it and throw it in the bin if he wants, or I don't know, make a desk ornament out of it or something. Alright, she's back in her clothes, champion, so one last glamour shot before we send her out the door. Now, I know you come to this channel to watch me squirm, you don't come here for tweed recaps and bloody, you know, 60s Fender restorations, which are pretty well known factors. You come here for the weird stuff and the hard stuff and the hacked up stuff, and I love yous for it. So I don't think there's any shortage of hacked up amps around here. There seems to be some swindlers around here, fast talkers that convince people they know what they're doing when they totally don't, and then eventually they end up here and hopefully a customer for life after being screwed over by unscrupulous wannabe techs. So thanks for joining us once again, legends. Stay tuned for the next one, which is a hack job just as bad as this, but it's a Fender, so it's a bit more intuitive. So until then, legends, take it squeezy, drink lots of water and coffee and beer and whiskey, maybe not all at once, but you know, that might be some new hipster cocktail I don't know about. I'm talking shit again. I never know how to end a video, so I'll just end it. Take it easy. See you on the next one. So, Mesa Mark III, have you got anything else to add? Yeah, thought so. See you on the next one, champions.